Let's talk to Dr. Chukwube, who is an associate professor, Russian language and integration at the Department of European Languages and Integration Studies in the University of Lagos. He joins us virtually. Good morning, Dr. Chukwube. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ladi. It's my pleasure to be here.
Let me ask this question basically. Earlier, we had the chairman of the Nigerians and Diaspora Commission, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Erewa, complaining officially on behalf of the federal government about the treatment some Nigerians are receiving from the Polish authorities. She was very specific about the Polish authorities in that case. But we have also had reports of some of the neighboring countries and even Ukraine itself tending towards some racist behavior, especially when it comes to people of color and all of that. Is this, I mean, you're a professor of European languages and integration. Is this normal, would you say, given the cultural traits and so on of the people in that region?
Actually, it is not normal. But, it's unfortunate that we are witnessing the whole thing now. But naturally, the issue of the issue of segregation against especially blacks have been there. And though it is not right to see it at this time of invasion of Ukraine by Russia, but we can't rule it out that it has always been there. Some of us that had opportunity of studying in Russia or Ukraine or when it was the Soviet Union actually witnessed this. But the amazing thing and the bad thing of it is that it is happening in Poland now that there is crisis in, so it is not normal. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
Let me ask further then, if as you say, it shouldn't be, even though you do also reference the fact that even when people like yourselves were in studies in what was known then as the old Soviet Union, you did witness some of this. There is also this tendency even within the countries. I have read reports and I've had discussions with some of my colleagues who have talked about the fact that even within societies like Ukraine and Russia, you have people of mixed parentage, people who whose parents are, half white, half black, let me put it that way. And the children then face discrimination because they are not seen as being full-blooded Ukrainians, but at the same time, they are not seen as complete whatever the other group it is that they are from. Is this deeply ingrained in culture, do you think? Or is it something that is the disposition of those who have never seen such people in large numbers, outside their communities?
I think it is naturally there, and especially those children with mixed parentage, their own situation is worse. Such people always find it difficult to mix freely with real Russians or Ukrainians. They are tagged and named different names. Sometimes they are called Shoni, blacks. Sometimes they are called Kofis Malakom, that is milk and the coffee. In other words, it is not clear to be white or it's not clear to be black. And that discrimination has always been there, especially for these people. Well, if you are a black person and you are called a black man, or sometimes they call you different names, monkey, yes, well, it is understandable. But when you see somebody who is half Russian and half black, their own situation is usually worse because even at schools, at places of work, that segregated against. Therefore, it has been there, but it is still bad that it is still in existence. I was talking in the time of the old, but that it is obvious that it's still happening in modern Russia and modern Ukraine. it is condemnable. It's bad.
Let's come to the two societies themselves now, Russia and Ukraine. So many people that have spoken to both in the run-up to and once this invasion started have said that basically the Ukrainians and the Russians, for want of a better word, are the difference between six and half a dozen in terms of culture, in terms of the way they think, in terms of their assimilative principles, in terms of their educational structure, even their military command is very similar. Is that true from your viewpoint?
Yes. You won't forget that Russia and Ukraine have always been seen as one country, and also Belarus. The two of them are known to have one inheritance of what they call themselves as, coming from a particular place in Russia. In the old Russia, not even Soviet Union. So they have seen themselves as ethnically being together. So there is a lot of similarities in their culture and attitude. But then, if you are talking now that there is Russian invasion in Ukraine, because of it, mixed children or even their own people, it is obvious that before the war started, or let me say from the time of the disintegration of the Soviet Union, they had seen themselves as different countries. This is to say that prior to that time, they have not been major countries. But with the from the time of disintegration of the Soviet Union, there is wide division between the two countries now. And it became worse from 2014, when Russia invaded the Crimea Peninsula. It wasn't so nice, but that was the beginning of the crisis. And now that the war has started in Ukraine, there's a wide difference in relationship between Ukrainian and Russians, even among those that had intermarriages. Of course, before this time, it is only normal that if you are from Ukraine, you know you are Ukraine. And if you are an Ukrainian and you are in Russia, yes, you are seen as a brother or a sister, but you are from a different country. And it is a very big problem. It is causing a lot of misunderstanding among Russians and Ukrainians. So, but as it is today, it is getting worse as long as this crisis is still on in Ukraine.
Some of the people I've spoken to as well, and some of them have in fact been scholars like you, have said that as a country, or as countries go, Ukraine is in fact older than Russia as a country. But somehow, in the course of history, Russia has become stronger, bigger, more economically successful than Ukraine, and that to a large extent, this has fanned the resentment in Ukraine against Russia, and that the Russians have always seen Ukraine as like younger brothers, so to speak. If this is true, and I want you to confirm if it is, then why is the animosity of such a level as to lead to military conflict?
Okay, like I said before, Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus in the old Russian Empire were regarded as little Russians. In other words, they saw themselves as one country. And even today, an average Russian believes that somebody from Ukraine or somebody from Belarus, that they have that close relations. However, in 1804, there was this a need for Russians to demilitarize Ukraine, especially. And that was when the Ukrainian language was banned, teaching of Ukrainian in universities or in schools were banned and all whatnot. And that started the animosity between the two countries. And later, during the Soviet time, we know, especially at this Crimea Peninsula, well, it was inherited by the Crimea Tatars, as the history said. Now, during the Second World War, they were seen, or in fact, it was Stalin that saw them as having aided Germany, and Stalin labeled them Nazists. So what that led to was that many of them were exiled into Siberia, and the whole vacuum of the space of the present-day Crimea was open. And a lot of Russians, well, apart from Russians, other nationalities inhabited there, but Russians are in the majority. So now Russians living there, and according to Russia, even a single soul of Russian living in any of the former Soviet republics is still a Russian. And it is the duty of the government to protect such a person. And that explains why in 2014, Russia had to go and then took over Crimea. This did not go so well with the Ukrainians, no doubt about it. But with that, from that time, that animosity started. And till today, when the real invasion started, it has been terrible. And it didn't exclude the military too. An average military man from Ukraine knows that Russia military man is his brother, but there is that tag that has been there that has caused enmity between them, and they are not in a haste to clear it. Maybe at the end of this invasion, nobody knows when it will end. Some say 1 week, months, or years, as the case may be. But maybe when it ends, the two countries will begin to, get themselves together again, try to create more conducive environment and understanding that will help them to understand themselves more of what they used to be and what they are now.
Indeed, one can only hope that that will be the result at the end of all of this. Dr. Chukwube, Associate Professor, Russian Language and Integration at the University of Lagos, thank you for your time this morning and for your perspective.
Thank you very much, Lade.